morning, everybody. It's about almost 9:30 here, and I decided to spend my morning with you. It's pouring rain, and funny thing is, it's been drier and hotter than normal for this time of the year until today when it's pouring. So we're not going outside to do a tour, but I will come back and do that soon. And what we're doing is because Mother's Day, I decided I was looking at Moon Glow. And Moon Glow was in this pot. Moon Glow is one of my oldest orchids. I think the second oldest. And I was looking back at when I put her in this pot. She's not in it now. And I was looking back, and it was 2017, October. And I thought, holy, and I was looking at her, and I thought, you know, her flowers were dropping, and I thought, maybe I should have a look in this pot. Now, when I looked in there, because, oh yeah, it was hotter than normal, so I thought, well, I better see, I might have to start watering my orchids halfway. I usually water on Wednesdays, and then Sundays I thought, well, I'll give them a second water. Now, that is just straight water because we stick to our watering schedule for the 1 day a week. But if you've looked in your pots, which I do quite often, to judge, because when we're in 4 seasons, things are always changing. And the watering schedule may have to change as the weather's drier and hotter. So, and I'm just embarked. So normally with a wet, humid winter, or, and that too is a little tricky because we use our heat in the winter. So you're always checking your pot to see how your watering is going, to see if you want to add more water more often or less. So I decided Mother's Day, I was mothering one of my oldest orchids, and she was in this pot. And I just originally went to look to see how dry it was. And then I noticed it was dry, and it looked like I had to start doing a second watering, especially the small pots. But this is a big pot, and it was dry. Now, this is a terracotta pot that I had painted, and it was an old pot, and there's lots of places her roots were so stuck because I didn't paint the inside, and it's quite dry and rough. And so there's lots of places where the roots were stuck inside this pot. And I had an awful time loosening them, because if they're stuck to a plastic pot or a smoother porcelain pot, you can soak them a bit and kind of wiggle them loose and they're still flat. But these ones, they were stuck. So anyway, this all happened without you. But I am going to share some of it with you before I repot another orchid. And so I decided to put her in this porcelain pot, and I'm going to quickly take her out because it won't hurt her. And the reason I'm checking all my orchids now is they'll soon be going out in the patio, and it's going to be warmer out there, and if any time not enough watering will affect them, it'll be then. I want to make sure for the growing season, when they're getting lots of leaves and roots, I want to make sure that they have been repotted. Like normally, if I bring an orchid home, I repot it right away. I don't care. I soak my bark. I do it right away. Now, this isn't the best time to repot your orchid because it's not the growing season, and it's not when they're going to quickly get new roots. But it is the best time to do it because they're never in a healthy situation. So I always do this. I always soak my bark 3 days, with the seaweed fertilizer, a few drops in the water. And that's what I've been doing with this. My bark is now soaking. It's been soaking since, I think, 4 days now. So you have to always be aware of how your plant is. So this was my Mother's Day thing, and I'm going to dump her out even though she got repotted. Now, when she was originally potted, I was using my older, bigger bark. And now the bark is smaller because I can't get the older, bigger bark. So it may need less watering because the smaller the bark, the closer. There's still air spaces, but the closer the little pieces are together, there's less air spaces and more moisture is able to get in there. But this is a new repot, and here she is. And so I'm going to show you how she looked after the fact. There was no soggy roots. I never usually have soggy roots. But I want to show you how she looked because you missed it. So here she is in this pot, and we're going to put her right back in. It's not a watering day. And we're going to just see how the bark is. See, now her roots to me, to my fingers, her roots feel, so this is in a big pot, so quite likely by the feel of the bark, it's still damp in the bottom. It's still giving humidity to this pot. And even though the dampness is at the bottom, it's going to encourage the roots to grow down to the bottom. So here she is. And some of these roots will be greener if I soaked her, but I'm not. But she has lots of roots. I've had her for many years. She's the one that had a keiki, and it flowered, and I repotted it, but I did it too soon. I didn't wait for enough roots to grow. So anyway, she is healthy, but there was some, like here's a real flat one. This one was attached to the pot so bad, and there is some more here. They were so attached, and I felt so bad. But anyway, there's also lots of green shoots coming out of brown shoots. There's a lot of growth, but no new roots growing out here yet. So I trimmed off her flower because it was dying back anyway. I got a couple pieces in this little bowl. That's her flowers. She had 3 left. So I believe in that. Yes, a lot of people leave them. There's a lot of controversy because they say, well, no one cuts them off in the forest. No one's running around cutting off the spikes. But in the forest, the flowers aren't in bloom for 5 months. Most of these have been in bloom since December, and they're just finishing now. And they just don't do that because the bugs come along that are out in the woods, and that's what they're supposed to do, and they start pollinating, and then the flowers drop. So we're encouraging ours to be in flower longer, and it's a different situation. And I believe that if your plant gives you flowers for 4 or 5 months, I believe the rest is better to cut it off. Quite often the orchid societies will say if the plant is unhealthy, cut it off. So it's not really like unhealthy, but I want it to be healthier. So that's what I believe, and I cut them off. So I'm going to put this back in. I didn't want to kind of do it and have you miss it. So we're going to put some back in. It does have a slight dampness. See, now I would not water this again because then it'd be holding too much water in there, and that wouldn't be good. So I do know the big pots are not likely to be needing any more water till watering day, but I'm pretty sure the small pots probably will. And then I will just take a bucket and I'll go around and dip them in quickly and pull them out, and that'll just be the day one. If I don't do that, if it's one that, because I have many varieties of pots, if it's one that it's awkward to dip, I'll just have my watering can and water that way, and most of it will run through. But this is why you check your pots. All this bark, to my hands, has a dampness. But as you can see, there's a lot of smaller debris compared to what I used to have. And maybe that will actually be better than the big bark because of the dry summers we get, and in the winter when the furnaces are on and there isn't as much humidity. This was the end of my last bag, and I started a new bag. So I had some sawdusty stuff here that got in too. So there you go, Moon Glow. It does not hurt them to do this. Now, I know some will say they shouldn't disturb them, but the only way to really know how your plant is doing is to look at it. So I wanted to do that, and we're going to unpot another one that I haven't just repotted, but there, I wanted to share that with you. I want to start to see some nice healthy roots. A little bit of a shake, and there she is. If I have any bark left from the one we're going to do now, I could put that in. There is some little shavings here that got through because I emptied the bottom of a pot. I took a bucket, put it outside, filled it up, weighted it down so all the bark was covered, and let it soak. So, there. Okay, so there's Moon Glow, and so she had been in that pot since October 2017 is the video when I put her in this pot, and she had her keiki on her. So that was October 2017, and the reason I didn't use this pot again, I do need a big pot because she has lots of roots, is because they were so badly stuck. Although size-wise, the other pot's just a little bit bigger, and she was crowded for roots. So there's that one. Now, there. Okay, so I'm going to take my bark, and it's been soaking. I usually weight it down so that, and I got a strainer here. Oh, it smells like fresh bark, even with the seaweed fertilizer in there. So, okay, so here we are. Now, this is one of the smaller traffic cones. I have a few more I want to do because I love this size. You can also hang them from the type of hangers. If you made little clamps, you could, or holes, you could put it through a hole, and you could hang them from something very easily too. And these are just dollar store traffic cones. There. Okay, we'll take that off. Yes, she's in bloom. That's okay. I usually don't lose flowers anyway when I repot in bloom. Even the ones that have been in the grocery store, they might drop one flower or two flowers at the most. I've never had that trouble. So this one's been in here since 2018, and just bark. There is a few little roots I want to baby. See, it's dry. Now we're going to just see how dry. See, when you check your pot, make sure you do go to the bottom. I mean, halfway it might appear dark, but down the bottom it still could be damp, still giving a lot of humidity to those roots. So I think a thorough check is, oh, there's a root on the bottom. I never noticed that. There's a root on the bottom. It went through the screen, and then it decided it didn't want to go through the screen, so I think it's going to lose this one. Oh, it won't hurt if it loses one. So, let's see what we can do. It is stuck. Okay. Okay, I'm not sure which one's growing down and which one's growing up. I think it's this way. Okay, we got it. Okay, this one has some roots that are just got green tips on them on the top going. So, okay, this one, I still feel dampness. It's not a problem leaving this one till Wednesday. Now, to some people, they might think this is dry, but look, even inside, these roots from that little dampness in this bark is still good. And if I start watering too much, then what's going to happen is, then we'll have to worry about mushy roots. There is no mushy roots. You can see where I'm going to come walk around and give you a close-up. There's some nice new roots coming. I'm going to show you that too. I'm going to get my pliers out. Jack gave me some nice little snap-on pliers, and I'll show you when I come over. See, I never know what side of the sink to be on to do this best, so I've been experimenting. So here we go. There is some little roots coming there. You can see where it was on the side of the pot, but here too, it's flat. But these came off quite easily. There's still lots of green. Even at the bottom there was green. So you have to judge this. The ones of this bark that come off easily, I take off. The ones that are quite stuck, I'm not going to disturb. Nothing is rotten in here. So we have green roots even way down here. This is the one that was going through the bottom. So it's okay. So, but what I want to show you is right in here. Let's see. Right here. Where's my... Okay. There is that. This is from the old leaf. And it's quite dry. And sometimes if sometimes if you are on the wet side and you keep your plants on the wet side, then this can get mushy and it can cause problems. Now, I'm never on the wet side, but sometimes if you can just peel that off, and I'm going to go back over here, so you know what I'm going to be doing is now, thank you subscribers, because this is from somebody told me to do this. Barb in Ontario, or I got the name wrong. I know when I'm talking to her in the comments, but anyway, I thanked her for giving me that idea, because you watch some places on your orchids, where the old leaves were, it's quite dry and hard, and if you peel that back when you're repotting, then actually the roots get through better. You can get more new roots easier. They don't have to go through that. And also, if you are on the wet side, those little leaves can get mushy very easily. So I try to keep mine peeled back. So this bark is pretty good for being here since November 17, 2018. The bark is good. So there's more proof of having your orchids on the dry side. I'm not saying totally dry. This bark is not totally dry. It doesn't feel sopping wet, but I do feel a dampness. Now this is still good for my compost because it will break down and be good for my vegetable garden. So I'm going to put that in my compost. I got a funny story to tell you. Jack said, don't tell them. But we've had some mice and rats eating things. A rat ate the cymbidium leaves all off in the greenhouse. And so we have some of the old-fashioned traps, and we have some of the new kind of traps. And I'm a farm girl. I didn't grow up a farm girl, but when I left home, I became a farm girl. And I had almost every animal and grown things and sold vegetables from my home, grew tons of stuff and worked hard. And I'm used to mice. So anyway, Jack's not used to mice and he doesn't like dealing with them if they're in the trap or anything. So he ordered this mouse trap that is a live catching trap. And so it comes, and it's quite a newfangled thing that when the mouse goes through this walkway thing, there's two electric eyes that catch that it did, and down the trap comes, and he's there. But then what do you do with him? This has been our problem. So we've been catching up on all these chores around the house and outside because we've had all this extra time. So we're cleaning out the gazebo. That's where I keep pots, and it's where we keep the plastic from the greenhouse when we uncover it, and all kinds of stuff like that. And the floor was wrecked. So I will cut that story short, and we put down new floor, and he was supposed to be coming out to help me after he dealt with this live mouse. So it wasn't that day, it was the day before he got the mouse in the trap. And so he didn't know what to do with it. And we don't have guns because we just don't shoot. I used to, but anyway, we don't have a gun right now. We have a pellet gun. And we thought, well, what are we going to do with this mouse? And he said, oh, don't worry, I'll deal with it. So this was the night before the floor event. So he apparently started up the car, and he ran exhaust into a bag with the mouse in, thinking that 10 minutes of that, the poor thing would fall asleep. That'd be it. So apparently that didn't work. So then he's still got a live mouse. He can't believe it. So he thought, well, overnight he'd put it in this box with hardly any air, right? And it'd be dead in the morning. So, okay, here we are, the morning that I'm kind of waiting, because he said he was going to come out and help me with this floor. And I, what on earth is he doing? And he said, don't tell you. But you won't tell him I told you, will you? So anyway, I kept going into the garage and out, and I couldn't find him. Well, when you go in the door to the house from the garage, there's a laundry room there with a big sink. So I guess he heard me going out, and he says, what you doing? I says, well, I'm waiting for you. And he says, well, I got the mouse. I said, well, what are you doing with the mouse? Well, I got him in the laundry room sink, he said. well, what are you doing in the, well, he's swimming around, he won't drown. And I said, well, you can't. He says, we'll just leave him here because he's getting tired and we'll go. I said, all this is more torture than the trap that, you know. But anyway, he's starting to feel very sorry for this mouse. He's not, you know, maybe we should let it loose because it's been swimming in the sink all this time. It's been through all this. And, you know, he's so little. So anyway, I go and I look in the sink. Here's this mouse swimming around. And he keeps turning the tap on. And he says, if I keep doing that, he's going to go down. He's going to drown. And I says, well, why don't you just weight him down, you know? He said, because he'll crawl up your arm and he'll get out. And he says, why don't we just leave him swimming here? And I says, oh, Mama would have come into the laundry room. There's going to be this mouse swimming in the sink. She's going to have a heart attack. So, I said, well, I'll go get a jar and we'll put him down into the water. And he says, oh no, he'll get on the jar, he'll climb out. And anyway, I did go get a jar and I put it down. We went in there and I put the lid on and that was it. So, what do you guys do when you get a live mouse? I'm used to the traps that, you know, they just sudden, quick. This other stuff was a portal thing, how he suffered through all that. Anyway, he's out of his misery now, and we're still trying to catch some more, but hopefully they've gone to the neighbors. What happens to all these cats in the neighborhood that should be eating these things? Anyway, we better get this planted. I don't know. This is looking good inside. I love these traffic cones. They're plastic, so they do hold humidity good. This is a kind of medium-sized one. I got a bunch more because I really like them. And, you know, you could clamp on those 3 things and you could hang these. You could put some wire and drill holes and hang them anywhere, in trees, whatever. So there we go. And there's that little bit of screen in the bottom so that all the bark doesn't fall through. And this one's going to get some nice fresh. I'm still going to water it on Wednesday, so the bark is damp, but I'm not worried about wetting the roots anymore. There. It's not that big of a pot. Now, I'm pretty sure these are all stuck, and because they're dry and they're not showing any decay signs, I see no rot or anything. So, in we go. In we go. And then we'll just sift this. I probably got more bark than I need, but that's okay. I might hunt around and see what else needs done. There. Just let this, like when there's lots of roots, you sort of have to poke with your finger and just let this fall in there. So this is important because we're into trying to get lots of growth. We're starting our new fertilizer, nitrogen. We want to make sure they're getting heavier nitrogen. I've been reading a few studies and they definitely say a few recent studies. If you type into your search thing that you want to know, so you can put 2020 studies on Phalaenopsis orchids and nitrogen. And you probably have some of the studies I've been reading coming up where they have definitely found that they need that higher nitrogen in the spring. If you want, they proved that you get more branching, more longer, bigger flowers. So you don't want to not do this. You want to make sure you're doing it only once a week and a quarter of the recommended amount. But, you know, in time this will go down a little better. Now she's still got her flowers, so we'll put the stem back on. This is the one where Jack just put one of those clamps on. They do rust a bit, but they stay pretty good because it's the surface of the orchid that... So then I just clamp that onto the side like that, and then I can bend it where I want it. Like that. And put her back on. There, I got another clamp here. There we go. And that's Moon Glows. I have to rewrite that. So there we go. I still got some bark left. I'll probably go on a little hunt and see what else I can use. And I'll probably just shake this a little bit more and see if I can get it to go down. So I'm hoping you're all fine and we're hopefully ready to get back to a partially normal way of life, and we'll be stronger and smarter as we do it. And my heart's with y'all, and thanks for joining me. And I'll be back for an outside tour and some really important ideas we came up with in the garden for planting onions. So next nice day we'll see you again, and thanks for joining me. Bye. Oh, just a minute. I want to show you, I'm going to start painting a new picture. And we took these picture in camps out in the mountain of a mountain goat. And I just loved it. And I've had it for a couple years. And I haven't done anything with it. I'm going to come around and give you a close-up and then we'll go. So I'm hoping to start painting this. I was going to show you. Some of you have probably already disappeared. But anyway, look. It's so beautiful, this picture. So I want to paint this. I'm going to do it on a small porcelain tile. And then, look at this one. We got this one too. The boys are all here. Okay, bye for now.